Have you ever tried to watch the football on the weekend but you can't find the game? Or you want to watch a big fight on the weekend but you don't want to spend a fortune on the pay-per-view? Or what about the latest TV series that isn't out in your country yet? Well, a VPN is the way to go to solve all of these issues. And the one I use is Proton. Now, Proton is a Swiss company founded by a team of scientists with the goal of building a better internet. And they have 100 million people using their service, with a network of over 4,200 servers in 91 countries. So you can log in and connect to a region all over the world. So once you've signed up, the browsing experience is super quick, and they don't limit bandwidth, so you know the connection will be smooth wherever you are. All of your information is kept private and there is no monitoring of your browsing activity. And I'm not a tech genius and I find it super easy to use. One of the best features is the integrated ad blocker, which helps so that when you're reading articles you're not bombarded with pop-ups all the time, or other websites for that matter. But by far the best thing for me about this is the access to sport. So if you sign up to Proton VPN using my link in the description below, you will get 1 month for free in the 12-month plan. And if you sign up for 24 months, they'll give you 3 months for free. So check out the best VPN that I've ever used using the link in the description below. UFC champion Jon Jones has been accused of threatening to kill a woman who was at his home to collect his urine for a drugs test. Now, if this was any other athlete fighter, this would be a shock. For him, I'm not even sure this is really like making his life story. Quite low down on the shock factor. Even in terms of drug test stories. I mean, there was one drugs test. Apparently, they came to test him. He hid under the ring until they left and he waited for hours. I mean, that is alleged, just to be clear. But like, it's pretty accepted within the MMA community that when Jon was putting on a size, you know what I mean? He was fucking juice to the gills. If we're talking about things he's done to women, I mean, first of all, pregnant woman he crashed into, broke her arm, could have killed the baby. He did come back after he fled the scene to get his drugs and then ran away again. Didn't actually say to her, by the way, I am just fleeing with my drugs here, but are you all right? Then there was his fiancée, who he left bloodied at the hotel room where his kids had to call the cops on him to, you know, protect their own mother from him. So again, just in terms of like drugs testers, women, this isn't even that high on the list really. Now I've got the police report, but I will try and give Jones the benefit of the doubt to some degree, despite his history, and see what actually we think happened. So the cop has said he's contacted Crystal, who is the drug tester who works for Drug Free Sport International, and she is the one who turned up with her co-worker, Jerome. They turned up at 4 o'clock and were greeted by an unknown male who answered the door and directed them to the garage. So according to Crystal, Jones had said that he couldn't pee, so she'd offered to do a blood test for him instead, and that Jones had appeared agitated, being tense, puffed up, and looked bugged. The fact that Jones has failed a drugs test before and deliberately avoided a drugs test before, a lot of that would point to, is this something that this guy has to worry about? Like, we don't know. We don't know is the honest truth. But I think that Jones just doesn't like authority. He's been in confrontations many times with police officers where he's spoken to them during his driving like a piece of shit, right? Like, he has got an attitude towards authority. He always has. And in regards to police, I get it to some degree. I understand a little bit of that. But when it comes to drug testers turning up at your house, this is standard procedure. You've been doing this for decades now. Surely there shouldn't be any reason for you to have an attitude. Jones asked apparently if they had money because he was going to sue them. Why? Like, what for? Crystal stated that Jones had picked up her phone and started recording them, so she must have put her phone down, saying that he was going to sue them, which she had a video of. It should be noted at the time that Jones had no shirt on and his size compared to Crystal. I mean, look, the guy's a heavyweight UFC fighter. He's being aggressive. Obviously, to some degree, that would intimidate most people, let alone a woman. Apparently, on the video, he says, he has fucking Jerome and his girlfriend in my garage. Fuck me, the state of this guy. And then the video cuts off after that. Crystal then asked for her phone back, and Jones replied, why you fucking people come so early? Do you know what happens to people who come to my house? They end up dead. I mean, for a start, it's 4 o'clock, so there's no need for him to be angry at them being early. They're not early, bro. For him to say people end up dead when they come here, it's not a direct threat, but it is threatening language. Without a doubt, it is threatening language. I mean, I'm not saying he should be arrested for saying that, but it's not cool. If any one of us had a female of our family who worked in that situation, who was just turning up to do a bog standard drugs test, and someone is behaving in that way towards them, we wouldn't be cool with that. Crystal has said she felt afraid, her heart was pounding, she was terrified at that moment, and Jones was less than a foot away. I still don't think that her feelings mean that he should be automatically arrested, but in the event of he's behaving this way, he should be told, back the fuck down, mate. Calm down. And I think, look, unfortunately, this means they're going to need to start turning up with fucking heavy security just to do fucking drugs tests now with the UFC. Because you can't have people behaving this way. And because the UFC conducts their own drugs test, it kind of potentially could mean that fighters now feel like they can just talk any other way towards these employees because you work for the UFC, I'm the UFC's biggest fish, I can do what I want with you. Whereas an independent body, maybe he would have been more respectful. So this also calls into question more problems with the UFC doing their own drugs testing outside of the fact of you don't really want to catch your own big names in the act of taking drugs, right? You want to look after them. Crystal explained that she wanted to terminate the test right then and there, but she was afraid Jones might hit her since the UFC fines athletes if the test is not taken. So in her mind, she's thinking, I really need to just get this test done. Even though he's being confrontational, let's just get it done. That kind of says that she's in a bit of a rock and a hard place, because if she tells him, I'm not cool with this, I'm going, because his behavior is not acceptable. She has every right to leave right then and there, immediately. The minute you start talking about people end up dead, she has every right to walk out that fucking door, and she probably should have done. Crystal said that she wanted to call for help, but Jones had her phone. How the fuck does Jones end up with her phone? It's mad that this man has just got a hold of her phone. Maybe he innocently picked it up and thought it was his phone. That can happen. But when you start recording on someone else's phone, you're aware it's not your phone. Crystal told the officer that she told Jerome to tell his girlfriend, who was sitting in a parked car in the driveway, to leave because Jones seemed upset the car was in his driveway and thought it might calm him down. This is where she's racking her brains here of like anything she can do to calm the situation down. We have to acknowledge the fact that it is possible that this woman is overreacting to the situation, and that as much as Jones has a history of all of this shit, it's possible that she is more intimidated than she should be because of Jon Jones being who he is. Crystal has also clarified that Jerome couldn't call for help either because his girlfriend had his phone. Not really coming off as the two smartest people in the world, are they? Crystal stated that Jones later agreed to take the urine test again. He placed her phone back on the counter, so she grabbed it while he and Jerome went to the patio. She texted her boss letting him know the situation, and she thought that Jones would attack her if he saw her on the phone. None of this proves that was going to happen, to be fair. She might just be being like a Karen. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that that's possible. Jones is a dick, don't get me wrong, he's always a dick, but she could be a Karen. So Crystal stated that Jerome, her colleague, had started packaging up the urine so they could get out of there, but that he kept making mistakes, which she believed because he was nervous. I mean, it makes sense, right? You got a 6-foot-odd UFC heavyweight champion who's clearly pissed. It's probably not the best thing for your nerves. Crystal then stated that she smelt alcohol coming from Jon Jones's breath. Imagine my shock. So once Crystal left, she did an internal report for her boss, but also said that she was going to file a police report, but her boss told her to hold off until UFC representatives spoke to her. I mean, it's not really a UFC matter if you feel threatened for your life, by the way. It's not, they're not world police. So the fact that that's happening just shows the level of influence that the UFC have over their drugs testers, which is a massive conflict of interest here. Because that tells us that if a UFC fighter does threaten to kill one of their drugs testers, the drug testers feel in fear of losing their job by simply making that public to the police. That's worse than them failing a drugs test, right? So if they do fail a drugs test, surely the UFC also have the power to, I don't know, sweep it under the rug and act like it never fucking happened. This is a major red flag here with their whole setup. And I'm not saying Jones is guilty of what he's being accused of even now. I'm saying that the process looks extremely flawed. So her colleague Jerome had also said that he did not want to file one because he was afraid of the repercussions. Interestingly, it doesn't say that he was disagreeing with her and that he shouldn't file one because it wasn't worth one. She's suggesting that it was because he was afraid of the repercussions, not because this isn't worth doing. Crystal had stated that she does want to press charges against Jones and a summons will be issued to Jones. So he hasn't been arrested, he's been summoned, which, you know, basically not that different from each other. It just means you can come in of your own accord. So the police officer then went to speak to Jon Jones, who confirmed that the drug testers were there. He did say that he was bothered a little because he was hungover hungover from the night before. Just to be clear, it was 4 p.m. when they turned up and he was hungover and he was still drinking. It's a wonder he doesn't fancy fighting Tom Aspinall, innit? Probably because he's living like a mess. Even I don't live this bad. So Jones said he never made any threats of harming or killing anyone, and that is not the way he talks. Jones said that he was saying, tell everyone at headquarters not to send people to my home so early because it could be a dangerous environment. That is bullshit, isn't it? Like, let's be real. He was angry at them, and he is saying, not directly threatening them, but he's making threatening statements saying, don't fuck with me. I'm pissed off right now. And this idea that they came too early, it was 4 p.m, bro. Shut the fuck up. He is such an arsehole, this guy. He cannot not be an arsehole. It's who he is. Doesn't matter whether he's drunk or not. He's just a dickhead. And this is why I'm always baffled when people support him against Tom Aspinall. Like, don't get me wrong, if you think he'll beat Tom Aspinall in a fight, that's one thing. But in terms of human beings, Jon Jones is a complete dickhead. We've been knowing this. He makes Tom Aspinall look like a fucking nun. That's just given me a really good idea for a movie where Jon Jones has to be a nun on the run from the cops and he ends up helping the choir out. That could really go down well. Nothing you can do can... Nah, it's fine. We'll save it for the script. Jones then clarified that he meant that a party could be occurring or multiple people could be there. Just interested to know, how would that be dangerous? Yeah, exactly. Bullshit. Jones also stated that he never said he was going to sue Crystal because he doesn't talk like that. This is the same man who was headbutting a police car surrounded by cops, crying his eyes out. Like, what? How do you know what you do, bro? Like, you don't fucking know, do you? You're not someone who we can put in a hole and go, that is so Jon Jones. If anything, the wilder it is, the more likely it is to be you. Saying you're going to sue someone is a bit tame. I do think he made threatening statements, 100%. It's who he is. All the data we've got on Jon Jones' whole life, aside from the occasional, religious quote, which means nothing coming from him because his actions do not back up the lifestyle of a religious man at all. He's a criminal who we need to keep fighting in a cage for the rest of our safety. So he's got an outlet. So I do think that we probably made some threatening gestures and statements towards her. Although Jones did say that he did make a statement to Jerome saying that he was going to sue him because he brought his girlfriend to his home and he did not know them. You've just said that. That's not the type of thing you would say. And now you're saying, well, I did say it to him, though. Fucking idiot, man. So, I mean, look, I understand Jones saying it's a violation, it's unprofessional. Bro, they're there to just do a urine sample. Can you not make a fucking big deal about it? It's not early. You're just a dickhead. Jones says that he did swear at Crystal at one point when she stated next time it would be her and her husband doing the test. And he said, I don't give a fuck. Jones says he thinks that Crystal was pissed off at him for using profanity, that she fabricated a story. I'm willing to buy that this woman is overly sensitive and a little bit of a Karen. I don't know if this is necessarily a police matter. He's got a point in that regard, but it ain't good. And he does deserve a smack for this, really. I don't know who the fuck's going to deliver the smack. Francis Ngannou, maybe? I don't know. Who can we get? He's being a wanker, but I don't think she's made all this up. If she then starts having loads of problems with other UFC fighters doing their blood tests, urine tests, then she's the problem. But if we go to Jon Jones's Wikipedia and look at controversies, there's multiple tabs. You're the common denominator. There was a footballer back in the day called Mario Balotelli who wore a t-shirt underneath his shirt and he held it up when he scored saying, why always me? Why always you, Jon Jones? It's always you. You're a dickhead, that's why. It was always Balotelli. He did set off fireworks in his house once, but he was smarter than Jon Jones. So Jones at the end of it has said that he apologised for swearing at them. So there is some decency in this bloke, that he knew he was a bit out of order for that. And he did give a bit of a high five and a hug to Crystal and Jerome. But he has said that they did not appear scared at any point, and he has denied the allegations. How the fuck would you know? You got alcohol on your breath, you're hungover, you're clearly swearing at them. Like, you're a UFC heavyweight champion. You are far more intimidating than the average person. So this is the footage Jones has released from his house where he gives a bit of a high five and a handshake to the two testers who are tiny in comparison to him. And he's using that as proof of, well, they were fine. They left, they were fine. Look, these people were probably fucking relieved. And if after you've been really confrontational, you're all of a sudden being all right and they can see the light at the end of the tunnel to get out this fucking place, they're not going to say, I'm not high-fiving you back. They're like, yeah, thank you. Can we get the fuck out now? Again, I don't think Jon Jones should be thrown in prison over this. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But he is being an arsehole. And I do believe that they were probably intimidated and relieved to get the fuck out of there. And it's interesting as to how he's tried to flip it in the caption with the video, video because he said, I was frustrated with their unprofessionalism. I mean, nothing I've heard from any of this is them being unprofessional. At all. Maybe if what she said about her husband being there next time, if she did say that, she shouldn't have said that. Even though he's being a dick beforehand, she has to keep professional at all times. And I think the fact that the guy's girlfriend sitting outside isn't the most professional, but equally, what difference does that make to the piss test? There's no reason for you to use that as an excuse for swearing at them, threatening behaviour in any way. He says, throughout my 20 years of being subjected to drug tests, I've never encountered such an incident with an officer before. This idea that he's never had any problems before. Shut the fuck up, you liar. Honestly, you just have to laugh, don't you? So yeah, I don't know if she should have reported this to the police, but I think she has every right to make a note of it, tell the UFC, and make a point of this guy is just not cool to be around, man. I don't feel safe, and you do need to fucking be aware of this guy is a loose cannon, and next time we need a bit of fucking security there, because he just hates authority, and this is one of dozens of issues with him. And if anything, I don't expect him to go another 2 years without another incident. I think something else will happen, maybe in the next 6 months even. He's a dickhead, and he always does stuff like this, but I don't think he should be arrested for it, and I don't think he should be in jail for it. I just think he's an asshole. If anything, this just shows what a bully Jon Jones can be, and I really want to see him in that cage with Tom Aspinall, and it makes it even more frustrating that even in a scenario where he could come up against people who are his equal, because he is so gifted, they're still serving him easy fights like Stipe. Fuck me. If there's ever a time to make Aspinall Jones, it's now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Have I got this wrong? Hit that like button, subscribe to the Pain Game YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.